Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. In today's topic, the Charlie Kirkness, basically, syndrome. In this situation, major minimization, major deflection tactics. Even when this was blatant extremeness of white-on-white criminality. But at the same time, various dynamics were in play, and especially along with Charlie Kirk's wife, who knew what the kind of person he was, and she still got a no accountability free pass. A no accountability free pass. The gigantic insultiness of the viralness of vitriol that would spew out Charlie Kirk's mouth. Outrightness. And you got various personnel in the various parts of the polygamous culture and some other ones who want to be like certain ones within the polygamous culture and some other ones that play fence playing, and even some coons and some sellouts. They act like that this man did sit there and spew out divisive anti-American black hatred and however other divisiveness that spewed out of his mouth. But today is September 21st, 2025, and there's supposed to be a major memorial service for him, for Charlie Kirk, at this Big John Stadium in one of the cities in Arizona. I think it held minimum of about 60,000 basically seats for people. That's minimum. The insultingness of this. Yes. He's been treated as if he was some kind of former big-time president. He's been treated as if he was some iconicness and various politicalness. He's been treated as if he was some kind of king or queen. He is being saintonized as if it was some kind of saint who's been remembered and canonized somewhere, and like, oh my goodness, we must have a memorial service for what they did. He's been saintonized as if there was some kind of saintness that lost their life or something like that for some gigantic humanitarian reasons, how they were treating people with extreme kindness and humanity. They act like this Charlie Kirk was somebody in those positions. Huh? So the insultingness of this situation. Yes, toward millions of American blacks, with very few exceptions on this. So before I start showing what I'm showing, let me read something from a very powerful book called Propaganda. This book was written around 1928 by Edward Bernays. Keep in mind, I said about 1928. So that's about 4 generations ago. I'm just going to read the first, say, sentence or so. A couple of sentences. The conscious and intelligent manipulation. Let me read that first little part. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in a wink-wink democratic society. Let me repeat that and relate it to this topic, because it's like the vitriol that came out of Charlie Kirk's mouth, this Charlie Kirk syndrome, as if he was some kind of major humanity being, right? global ambassador for humanity. But he was an extreme, divisive, vitriol, spewing out anti-American black hatred and his other type of agendas that was going on. So related to this particular Edward Bernays book called Propaganda that was written about 4 generations ago, it's a poignant, powerful, even today in what it's talking about. Because again, in the first couple of sentences, it talks about chapter 1, organizing chaos. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in a wink-wink democratic society. Yes, yes. Very powerful on that. So before I continue, I'm just going to show this it's kind of a quick cartoonish, quick cartoon by this guy on YouTube that has some great cartoon animation he's done and stuff like that. And some of the also great ones he would do is relating to the great, may his soul continue to rest, Mr. Neely Fuller, right? But let me sit there and play just a piece of this on this particular part. On this part, let me sit there and show you something because it's very poignant in this situation now. Because Charlie Kirk he comes from a lineage within certain parts of Panamanian culture they're this lineage of hatred, lineage of chaos, lineage of confusion, lineage of manipulation, right? Comes from a long list of that situation. He was just a modern version of ones that came before him, right? But so let me go ahead and share my screen on this particular part I'm about to show you. One moment here. Where it go? Uh-oh. Give me a second here. I'll have to redo this. Give me a second here. I'm going to go back. I thought I had this up already. Oh, well, I did have it up. CP. Okay, let me go back. I did have it set. Okay, let me go ahead and try this again. Share screen. Yeah, here we go. Okay, let me make sure my mic is good. All right. So this is the podcast, my podcast, The Real CP Show, right? On this situation, this is the home tab, and there are some ones on the videos tab, and most of the other ones are under the live tab on that. But this right here is what I'm just going to play just a few little snippets of some things on this.
Because, all right, when the white supremacists have to fool their victims, that's the easiest way to control anybody, is for you to be able to train them in such a way that they think that they are doing something that's helping themselves when they're doing something that's really helping you and destroying you while you help them.
But that's actually was something else totally different. But let me go back. But that's still another one on that one, on the Real CP Show under the videos. That's still good. This right here is what I just played. But this right here, I want to go into this. What are the white supremacists doing now? Uh-oh, hold on for a second. It's not showing up. Give me. Oh, shit. Wait a minute. Oh, crap. Hold on for a second. It's not even playing. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I thought this was playing. Sorry. Let me go back and do this again. Oh, it's playing in the background. I hear it, but it's not showing up. Give me a second here.
With the first one, what is racial showcasing?
Okay, here we go.
That means
go back in. Here we go.
what are the white supremacists doing now? They're doing 4 basic things: racial showcasing, racial population tailoring, racial dislocation, and white sacrificing. And these 4 things are designed to produce maximum sophisticated confusion among the victims. And so far, it's been somewhat successful worldwide. Now, I'll start with the first one. What is racial showcasing? That means taking huge numbers of black people and putting them out front. There's going to be more of this all over the planet. Many millions of black people that you will see who will be rolling in money. They'll be able to showcase the places where they live. They'll be able to showcase their knowledge and expertise. So you have television now, you have all of the mediums for doing this, for showcasing huge numbers of black people. I will say it will eventually run into the millions, so many that you won't be able to count them. Now, what is this for? This is for any black person that starts talking about racism in the future is going to be laughed at, because they're going to be able to showcase so many black people who are what you call quote unquote successful, that it will seem that racism has been put out of business. But white supremacy is a world business, and like any other business, it works on profits and losses, which means percentages. You go into business, you expect a certain amount of loss. If you're in the grocery business, well, you might have a load of asparagus that is spoiled. But overall, you will make more profits than you have losses if you're going to stay in the business. Now, so the white supremacists know that the cost of doing the business of white supremacy is going up. They can no longer get away with Joe Louis and Lena Horne like they did years ago. They have to have many more black people who are going to be showcased. I made up this term just to explain it. You have to make up terms, because they won't make them up for you. So now that's the first phase, or one of the first elements in the maximum confusion.
So that's part of it. I'm trying to find out what's the other one. See, the confused, they'll sit there and show a lot of, a few black folks. Oh, look, no, they're successful. But then they won't sit there and show the gigantic amount of other black folks who are still going through black pain, right? Let me see if this is it here. Let me see, this is the other part. I don't play the whole thing here.
Each other. See, they know that. You'll be passing millions. That white supremacy is officially out of business. So there will be more of these white sacrifices in front of these each other. The white sacrifices.
Yes, this is the one part. This part here.
Then your bigger operation. So white sacrifices mean you'll have more and more white people on park benches, more and more white people begging on streets. They will be greatly visible. But what you won't pay attention to, because black people never pay much attention to what white people are doing, we just watch each other. See, they know that. You'll be passing millions of white people who are doing well on any city street. And for the handful of white people who have fallen through the cracks, you might say, sitting in front of the subways or begging in front of these delicatessen, for the handful that you see doing that, up under the bridge and all like that, it will give the illusion that it's not about race.
See the game on that part, right? They'll sit there and have like the Charlie Kirks that are doing their stuff before he transitioned, but because of white on white criminality, and say, well, it's not about race, because there's some black Negroes that's doing good, but they want to sit there and show the same how many other millions of American blacks that's still going through black pain, right? That still have to deal with racial racism, terrorism every day, right? Don't want to see stuff like that, right? And this is why that the point is that it's an insult. Because the thing with Charlie Kirk is that you got numbers of people that think he was a second or third super coming of some kind of resurgence of some type of great white hope, because that's what this system really thought Charlie Kirk was going to be. This is why I would say supremacist is the most awesome mental manipulation force that's ever existed on that situation, because they are the masters of manipulation. And they have done a work upon millions within American Blackism, with very few exceptions. Because, oh my goodness, this Trumpism going on. But it's like, what was going on before the Trumpism last 4 years? Record-breaking, border-breaking illegal immigrants, right? You still have another record-breaking immigration coming over. You still have record-breaking people that were sitting there knowing what they were doing, coming over here with seeking out what they were called, I forgot, birthing tourism, where you have people that come from different countries, women that come to this country for the main purposes of popping out babies left and right and stuff like that. And look, became an uncalculable count the number of border-breaking illegal immigrant numbers of women that came across that border, pop out them kids, bam, 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 automatic citizenship, thanks for off the blood, sweat, and tears, and extra blood, sweat, and tears of Black Americans of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. And how the numbers of women with those kids go right back to their previous country, but now they got dual citizenship. The numbers of border-breaking illegal immigrant women that came across that border, depending on where they're from and stuff like that, bam, automatic citizenship. How many go to certain offices, get automatic, that baby now is automatic U.S. citizen, eligible now that the woman and how the male, depending, is utilizing that child or children as pawns, get free Medicaid, free WIC, and depending on where you're at, stuff like that, some kind of free housing, and the list goes on. I make all that point is because that so many things have been going on and still going on toward American Blacks, right? And then you have this vitriol speaking Charlie Kirk coming up with just nonsensical hatred, divisive language, and he would usually overall get free passes. And he was born only, I think, around 1993. So he was still a youngster, basically, in adult life. But the system saw something in him, right, of a type of regurgitated puppet that they can sit there and use to spew out vitriol hatred, especially toward American Blacks. And then he'll throw in some divisiveness with some other type of agendas, things like that. Because what I'm showing you in a little bit was that it wasn't, he wasn't, his body, should we say, his physical body wasn't removed from unalivement because it was some Black person sitting there doing, took him out because they were just so tired of him showing Black pain. Nope. It was a person who from the Padama's culture who's like 22, 23 years old, as youngster as well himself. But because he was sitting there dating a man that was biological male, but that was transitions to a woman, that's one of the main reasons that he was taken out by that white on white criminal assailant. Because he was mad at their part, not because Charlie Kirk was spewing out hatred toward American Blacks. He was tired of sitting there, oh my goodness, he's speaking about against alternative lifestyle category, right? Saw the vitriol toward American Blacks, all that assailant, he wasn't worried about all that, right? He wasn't concerned about that. So you see how that tactic goes on that, right? So again, before I go into showing some of these videos, Charlie Kirk was nothing more but a resurgency of a lineage base from people like the Bill O'Reillys. How many times Bill O'Reilly, for people knowing that some people will say, oh man, they definitely know about him spewing out anti-Black American hatred, right? Riling people up. Making Black Americans by the millions with very few exceptions riled up with anxiety. Why Bill O'Reilly talking like that? He's speaking vitriol toward American Blacks and stuff like that because he was getting paid big money to do that. And what took him down? Accusations by women that he was doing some bad things. You see how that goes, right? But there are numbers of women within certain parts of Padama's culture who have an extreme vile hatred toward American Blacks, but then hide behind the little sneaky minority card, right? Oh my goodness, toxic masculinity, misogyny. But how many numbers of women within certain parts of Padama's culture having hatred toward American Blacks? You see how this game is brilliant, right? On that. And you got the Rush Limbaugh type people that was spearing out. That was a major figure in radio, wink, wink, conservative type show, right? Who was spewing out vitriol of hatred of American Blackism, right? And he was getting paid major bucks to continue to keep doing that. Then you got the Tucker Carlson type people, right? Who wasn't quite the age of Rush Limbaugh and Bill O'Reilly. So he was still in that mid-range of adultness on that situation. A little older, I think a little bit old. He was a little bit older than Charlie Kirk. But he didn't get removed and stuff like that because of anti-American Black hatred. So look at Rush Limbaugh, Bill O'Reilly, Tucker Carlson, right? Now, Charlie Kirk, right? Before you transition, these people are just getting paid to spew out vitriol, and especially toward numbers of American Blacks on this situation. And notice this, because that's big bucks to insult American Blacks about $1 million. But when it comes down to voting, the Negroes, we got to have these Negroes to vote straight Democratic and nothing else. What's wrong with that? Because if you don't vote Democrat, you must like Republican. Do you not realize about 150 something years ago, around that time frame, you still have more politicalness than just saying Democrat and Republican? You had more voting options about 150 something plus years ago in the 1800s. You had more options. But this white supremacists is brilliant. They say, nope, we're going to have only 2 factions of the political party, right? And we expect on the Democratic side to just take for granted overall, the number of Black voting. And so the Republican side, well, they don't like Black folks either. Well, however you go on that. Well, how about this for a second? Which party going to sit there talking about reparations, give reparations for Black folks who earned that? None, right? You see how that goes. One side want to have conservatism, which means that they want to keep Angloism, certain Angloism caste system in check. The other part, however it is, they want to sit there and do something with more of genericalities with Black Americans as to sit there and poster board of being to use for automatic votingness. You see how that goes, right? So if I get into the videos, so you can't show any other Black American at all of any high level political celebrity, anything of any modern history of the 21st century that was spewing out vile hatred toward Angloism, toward anti-something. You saw, oh, he's anti-Semitic, right? Oh, he was talking about turnstile lifestyle categories. Oh my goodness, he was divisive all over the place, right? And still, his life was removed. That Black man's life was removed by another Black man. Black on my crime, Black on my crime. Because you know, various parts of society love saying that little nonsensical part, but the majority of crimes are committed by personnel within various parts of economic culture. Right? The person who has the most hate crimes put upon them is not because somebody's anti, or is because somebody's Jawish. You know the word I'm talking about. Jewish. Not because they're Hispanicism, not because they're Asian, which is still an insult in itself. You're like, what does the word Asian mean? It's a continent, right? But the system has made a section of what they say Asian is as the poster board. And you said Asia's a continent. Asia's made up of several dozen countries. And how many thousands of other islands that make up the Asian continent? Iran, can't say this enough. Iran is an Asian country. Iraq is an Asian country. Armenia is an Asian country. Parts of Russia isn't parts of Asia. But you see this game they keep playing. This ain't Asian. When you talk about right before Trumpism, within that last 4 years before Trumpism, bam! Didn't take long to get an anti-Asian hate crime bill. But the number one most hated group is Black Americans. Not some generic Asian, which is an insult because they're still Afro-Asiatic people. And again, I just there's name Armenians are not being jumped up left and right. Iranians are not being jumped up left and right. Certain parts of Russianism, they're not getting jumped up left and right, but numbers in them are considered Asians. You see how this game keeps going, and they know millions of American blacks. There are ones that are naive, with very few exceptions, that sit there and keep buying to this kind of stuff, right? So think about, I make this point before I get to these videos. There's no other black man that anybody can name of any type of 21st century who is a celebrity, who is in some type of major political figure. You can't name anybody that is running around different college campuses, going on radio, being extremely divisive and stuff like that again. And he doesn't like white people. Man, you got no Anglo people don't even like each other, right? Because there's a caste system. This was an Angloism. Oh, but what people don't talk about that, right? There are numbers of Hispanic people who can't stand other Hispanics. There are certain numbers of Asian people, they don't deal with other Asians in America. And there's certainly various types of Africans within America who don't sit there and talk to each other. There's no pan-American African love with various types of Africanism in America. They don't even stick to each other like that. There are still, they carry major tribalism from various parts of Africa. That stuff comes across over to America, and it's still tribalism going in America by various types of African factions, right? So you see, this game is going strong all over the place, but one thing is still constant. You still got people thinking American blacks, this has to be the most openest people ever in America. But again, as I ask you, you can't name not one black American that's been, oh, he's anti-Anglo so bad, he's anti-Hispanic, he's anti-Asian, he's anti-alternative lifestyle category, he's anti all over the freaking place, right? But at the same time, he takes the life of a black man who's been going all around different parts of the country, right? Causing hatred and divisiveness, right? And homophobicness, and the list goes on. But a black man so that takes him out, right? And then the black man takes his life. Who took that black man who was sitting there? Oh man, he was such a great black hope, right? But he was feeling so much hatred all over the place toward numbers of Anglos and Hispanics and Asians, and the list goes on. And he was homophobic and everything. But at the same time, he is satanized. And he has a memorial service in a big old John Stadium. Do you see this games on that? And that is the insulting part of that, right? But again, supremacy is brilliant.
There is a group of us. Over the centuries, the members change, but not the purpose.
Yes.
Group of us. Over the centuries, the members change, but not the purpose.
Yes. People, the groups, they just reemerge. Not just century, every decade, right? Every generation, throughout the centuries. This is the new crop of supremacists, pseudo supremacists. And worker bee want to be supremacists, but never will be that, right? Nothing's changed on that part of it.
There is a group of us. Over the centuries, the members change, but not the purpose.
Yes. The members change, right? That's all. The members have changed. That still continue to keep going on. Through the decades, through the generations, through the centuries. That ain't changed. So Charlie Kirk was nothing more. Than just a new pawn that was used by Harvard personnel. Oh my goodness, far right. Nope, no. Far left. No. Far left centered. No. Far right centered. No. Perpendicular to the quadrilateral rectangulareness. You see this game of terminology, and you still have they still got numbers of black Americans speak the same thing. Oh no. Well, I'm left. No, I'm right. Well, I'm centered. Well, I'm halfway through both of them. And I'm just all. He's like, what? When it don't even matter. Because the thing about it is that it's still insulting. Because the number one group that has been the most iconic for numbers of Democrats and voting is Black Americans. But where's the reparations? Where's the anti-American hate crime law and bill? Huh? Where is this at? So it's the insult to the American Black ancestors who have lost their lives, who want to be treated as equal. You said insult, but Charlie Kirk going around these college campuses and different other places on his own podcast, spewing out hate, American Black hatred, right? And other divisive tactics. Again, no different. The Bill O'Reillys type people, the Rich Limbaugh type people, the Tucker Carlson type people. I mean, the list goes on. The members change. The members change. That's all. But the agendas do not change. And primarily in various parts of America, it must be anti-American blackness, people.
Don't be fooled by the internet. It's cool to get on the computer, but don't let the computer get on you. It's cool to use the computer. Don't let the computer use you. You all saw the Matrix. There's a war going on. The battlefield's in the mind. And the prize is the soul.
Yes, and the great prince that he was taken out himself by power supremacist type people, whoever they hired to sit there and take him out. I mean, look at the way that the great prince, how they found him halfway out of the elevator. Well, he overdosed. Oh, what? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That Michael Jackson, he overdosed. Oh, that Whitney Houston. Oh, she was underwater in the bathtub. You not see these? You not see this agenda, right? People mysteriously, cars, boom, boom, and stuff like the engines going up in the air before they hit a tree. The supremacist is freaking brilliant. And again, now they're not perfect in this, right? There is an era of margin of error in those situations, but they still are supreme. They say it don't make no difference. As long as we're about 98, 99% imperfectness of that part, then the little small 1 point something, 0.98% that is, we can't account for that particular part. We ain't worried about that. So again, Charlie Kirk was nothing more but a passed downness or a resurgence of a type of vitriol, anti-American Black speaking people. Right? He was paid to sit there and cause chaos. Making multi-millionaire. And the thing about our related soul, his wife, I think she was a Miss somebody in some kind of pageant, right? And she was a few years older than him. But you ain't hear nobody talking about, oh, well, she must have groomed him, right? Because the way he came across, he didn't like, he was like one of those kind of people that, No, he probably can say some debating and stuff like that. But as far as some logicalness or how to sit there and really talk to women or understand women and how they, anyway, he said, no. So he probably most likely saw those looks of her and however people saying, hey, you know what? Hey, man, you need to get on give her and whatever situation happened with him and her. And all of a sudden, bam, he's like, hey, I'm going to marry her. Right. And the thing about it is, again, she gets free VIP account. She's been getting free VIP, no accountability passes. He's been doing this for years, even though he was still a young adult. He was like, 30 something, whatever he was, because he was born in 1993. But still, he's had several years to perfect that vile hatred of anti-Blackism, the vile divisiveness he had. And then he'll sit there and deflect upon numbers toward Black Americans and other type of groups he tried to do. But the number one was still toward American Blacks, right? So let me go ahead and sit there and, but I'll make that point because so I won't forget that part. She got free VIP passes, basically. No accountability, right? That womanism code, right? Oh my goodness, look at what happened to her husband, right? But she been right there in front with him. Listen to that vile anti-American black hatred from her husband, and she gets free VIP passes. Now change the dynamic on that. If that was a black woman who was talking like that, it was a black man that sit there and wasn't saying nothing. Oh man, they be roasting him. Oh my goodness, look, you let your wife speak that anti-Angloism. You let your wife sit there talk about, talking about anti-Jowishism type stuff. You let your wife talking about against gayness and lesbianism and turn lifestyle category, right? You let your wife do that. No, but nope, vice versa. They're like they don't see nothing. Because he was a type of great white holiness. And even though, again, there are certain numbers of personnel within certain parts of Minimized culture who don't act like certain collectively ones, right? There are ones who've lost their lives, right? Who said, this is wrong. The only difference, yes, I was born Caucasian, but I wasn't like some of the various family members who had hatred toward Black Americans. I'm not like a lot of the ones inside the culture. I happen to be one, but I'm not like those kind of ones. And their ones have lost their lives. But, you got some people that keep forgetting that part. Now, that is a small number, by the way. Because collectively, many sit there have a hatred toward American blacks. Because there's no way you can have a Charlie Kirkness, major racial racism, hatred of Black Americans, spelling hatred, doing all sort of agenda stuff, and they sitting there sanctionizing him as if he does some superness. You see the hypocrisy of this, right? But she gets to sit there and get away with sitting there acting like there's no, I got nothing to do with that. But she benefits off that. She benefited off that. His spirit of anti-American black hatred. She benefited off that. Why did she sit there and tell him, hey, Charlie, you can't be talking like that to Black Americans. Like, you can't be doing that. You can't be being divisive like this to however other group. You can't be doing that. Nope. She benefited off that. But she did the little comedian crocodile tears, which is also some of the most deadliest woman tears ever created. It's numbers of Anglo white tears. The one this applies to a certain female. One applies to, right? Deadly. Right? So let me go ahead and what video I want to show first here. So we start going a little bit fast. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, because one of the things that Charlie Kirk, the last thing he was sitting there, he said, somebody was asking about the mass shootings, right? And again, one of still the conversation you had, like people want to play silly, is the majority of the mass shootings is who? By whom? Numbers of males within various parts of Minimized culture. Now, are those going to be sort of put the number of victims that various types of males within the Minimized culture committing vileness of criminality of shooting toward kids, toward adults, right? Are those going to go into the crime stats, right? Huh? Mm-hmm. But they don't talk about black on black crime, criminality. Oh my goodness, the murder part. Please. Put it like this. It ain't all entities that are supposed to report categories of crime. So I'm just saying to you, it ain't all entities that's required to report murders. So all these different mass shootings by various males within the Minimized culture, you think that's going to be put inside of the same stats, crime stats? Right? Oh my goodness, but black on black crime. But you start talking about white on white crime. Oh, they want to deflect all over the freaking place, right? Just like this right here. One of the last things he was, somebody asked him a question about the mass shootings and stuff like that. And one of his last answers was he just said something about gangs. right? And you know the first thing somebody says about gayness, you know the first thing that many people sit there and start thinking about when you hear the word gains is talking about blacks. As the black folks are minute. Black Americans make up again 40-something million plus people in America. Make up around 13.5, 14.5, slightly more the population. Of the population of America, which is over 300-some plus million. So 99.899999999 of black folks, black males don't commit murder. But let some people like Charlie Kirk, this type people mentalities, right? Oh my goodness, like gang problems all over the place. So you see how this little silly tactic keeps going. They don't want to talk about Anglo gangness that's been running rampant for many generations. They don't want to talk about that. What about this right here? The Mara, you see that word right here. For the people who don't know, that's the MS-13ness, right? The deadliest street gang in America. This research paper addresses Mara, you see the word, the MS-13ness, often cited as the most violent gang in America, and traces the gang's inception and development exponentially into the United States. But at the same time, old Charlie Kirkness and how other people that had a mentality like him, they won't talk about that, right? Let me sit there and share this screen on that. But it's all my goodness, old black people, black crime, black crime. Oh my goodness, we got to get these gangs, in check. Oh, but Charlie Kirk type people like this, right? Males and females, right? Oh, they don't talk about things like this. How TOC groups operate. Transnational organized crime. As you can see that. Organized crime organized groups are associations of individuals who operate wholly or in part by illegal means. There is no single structure under which TOC groups function. I'm not going to go on all that too much. So I'll just say hierarchies to clans, networks, and cells, and may evolve to other structures. With very few exceptions, TOC groups are looking to make money. TOC groups often commit crimes such as, because remember now, black crime, right? Oh my goodness, we got to do something about these gangs. Oh my goodness, right? Well, again, 99.89999% of black males are not in no gangness. 99.89999% of black males don't commit murder. But again, the face of criminality must have black males. But at the same time, they expect the system and the votingness expects black folks and stuff like that, which includes black males, to vote across the board, Democratic across the board. With few exceptions, TOC groups are looking to make money. TOC groups often commit crimes such as drug trafficking, migrant smuggling, human trafficking, money laundering, firearms trafficking, illegal gambling, extortion, creating, selling counterfeit goods, wildlife and cultural property smuggling, cyber crimes, right? And however much violence on that. Oh, but see, Charlie Kirk type people, men and women, they don't want to talk about that kind of criminality. What about white-collar despicable crimes, right? How many millions of people have been victims of white-collar crime embezzlement, insider trading, right? Fixed markets and different things happening. And who does that? It ain't black American people control those kind of industries. Huh? But they don't talk about stuff like that. That type of major criminality. Boy, I tell you, boy. So they don't talk about African transnational crime groups. African TOC, the ones applies to, have developed quickly since the 1980s due to globalization and advanced technology. Nigerian. So some nervous, some Nigerians, the ones applies to, that go, black folks are lazy. Get the out of here for a second with that tribalism going on in various parts of Nigeria. So we ain't going to play that tactic. Nigerian criminal enterprises are the most significant of these groups and operate in more than 80 countries of the world. Oh, they don't talk about this, including the U.S. on that. Asian transnational organized crime groups. Asian TOC groups have been operating in the United States since the early 1900s. That was before, people, a certain couple of gayness of blackness that they love trying to bring up that you ain't gonna have that many around as much now in the world. I mean, because there are a lot of gentrification going on in those kind of places, and they'll love to bring up certain parts of, oh, look at Chicago. You do realize Chicago is not just some kind of poverty type city, right? Oh, look at Detroit. You do realize that there are numbers of other Anglo people and some other cultures that, and there's black folks in Chicago and Detroit that are also living in decent neighborhoods, right? But what about Washington, D.C.? Oh, you do realize that Washington, D.C. has some of the highest also STEM jobs and employers also in the country, besides certain other places, right? And there are some well-to-do Black Americans in D.C., well-to-do Black Americans in Detroit, well-to-do Black Americans in Chicago, right? Well-to-do Black American people in Philadelphia, right? Well-to-do numbers of Black Americans in St. Louis. But you see how they got to sit there, control the minds, or betray. Oh my goodness, look at the game that's going on. But again, they don't want to talk about Anglo gayness. They don't talk about numbers of African gayness. They don't talk about numbers of Hispanic gayness. They don't talk about numbers of, you see right there, some of these Asian gayness, the ones applies to. Right? So the couple of personnel that they try to play black on black crime gayness style, right? This right here, what did they say? Early 1900s, Asian TLC groups have been operating in the United States since the early 1900s. That was before some of these couple of main ones. They love trying to bring up black gangs. This right here predates them, but they don't want to talk about that. What about the Irish gangs going on in the early 1900s? What about the Irish criminality? Oh, they don't want to talk about that either, do they? Nope. What about the other type of Anglo and Anglo-adjacent criminality gangs that was going on in the early 1900s in America? Huh? When they were still struggling with major poverty themselves and unsanitary conditions and other types of criminality, right? And fleeing. But same during time, oh, they want to blame black people, want to blame black Americans. Get out of here with that ding tactic. Asian criminal enterprises conduct traditional racketeering activities normally associated with organized crime, extortion. What is that word? Murder. But black on black crime, right? And they know many Black Americans are very naive to the games that's being played, with very few exceptions. Kidnapping, illegal gambling, prostitution, and loan sharking, right? Oh, this is a big one. Italian organized crime. See, people like the Charlie Kirks and the Bill O'Reillys and the Rush Limbachs and the Tucker Carlson and the rest of the other ones, and some Anglo adjacent and some white, some various types of white Hispanicism, even some other coons and sellouts, and even some black adjacent ones, various parts of Africa. The list goes on, right? Oh, they make sure they don't want to talk about this topic, right? Italian organized crime, but black on black crime. Oh my God, we're going to talk about gangs, and that was the irony part of this. That Charlie Kirk, some of the last words he brought us something about gangs. The nerve of that, right? And he was on born in 1993 or something like that. So he had to sit there and be paid and taught on that by people that came before him that taught him how to sit there and spew out this vitriol hatred, right? They grow in different parts of America, being funded to speak vile hatred toward about American blacks and other vitriol issues, right? See how the game goes. Since the appearance in the 1800s, Italian, the ones applies to organized crime groups, broadly known as the Italian Mafia, have infiltrated the social and economic fabric of Italy and have become transnational in nature. Within Italy, you see the groups right here, right? They're known as collaborate with other international organized groups. In the U.S., there are several mafia groups operating under, you see this name right here, Paul, right? The major threats to American society posed by these groups are drug trafficking and money laundering. They're also involved in illegal gambling, political corruption, extortion, kidnapping, fraud, counterfeiting, murders, boomings, weapons trafficking, and the infiltration of legitimate business. But at the same time, you got people talking about black on black crown, black on black crown, black on black crown, black on black crown. But we're going to do about these black games on this, right? Okay. Well, I see. I wouldn't usually even waste my time on this, but I just want to show because people like to play games. They trolls and they rile up people. FBA is a descendant of African booty scratchers. Scratch my booty. Yeah, blah blah blah. Right? That's the old game playing stuff like that, right? Because again, people like that they try to get you off what you're talking about. But again, because they behind the screen, see, they won't go tell George people that nonsense and Hitler wasn't bad and stuff like that. They know better, stuff like that, right? So they won't tell those we call Native Indians, oh my goodness, some of y'all being removed from reservation. They weren't that bad, right? So I don't even waste my time with stuff like that. Those are game playing little trolls, right? Whatever on that, right? See, this is why I know with the Black Americans, you can never sit there and get relaxed. And unfortunately, because of black pain, many known American blacks, they just be tired of the drain of daily black painness of the racism, terrorism. I got it, right? That is the way that it goes on this situation. Because again, until more American blacks demand from high political figures enough, there has to be a hate crime law, period. No hate crime law, no hate crime law, no majority voting, period. No reparations conversation, specifically with Black Americans, just like you sit there and give uncalculable number of multi-millions and millions and millions and millions to what we call supposedly natives, right? As if there's no Black natives, as if there's no Native Americans that have been complicit and also holding slavery for Black natives. Huh? Oh, but see, you got people still don't talk about that, right? You got people that are Black natives, the people that have some descendants of what we call, anyways, per se, Native Americanists, right? Who by nature still, if they are part of some tribe, that they are also open and should also get some kind of reparation for however Indians as well, if they also show the documentation just like that themselves and not to jump through hoops. But anytime Black Americans say anything about Black American reparations in general, you got these people come out the woodwork. You even got some coonish, not with some coonish too. The nerve of you even have some Black adjacent type people that fled. They have the nerve to sit there and try to say, well, we African Americans, you don't go to HELL, that kind of crap, right? This is the nerve of people. Anytime you say something about Black American reparation and stuff like that, then that has to be traced back to lineage base, which is to the 1800s. You still got people that Black adjacent hodders that try to hide behind Black Americanists. You got the people saying, well, we're minorities, but nobody wants to talk. But you got people that don't want to tell, hey, Native Americans, hey, we're not still getting reparations. We got nothing to do with that. Hey, the anti-Semitic conversation, we have nothing to do with that old bad man that did this to however means of such personnel. So why are taxpayers' money going still over certain types of people? We ain't got nothing to do with that. We ain't got nothing to do with all these border break illegal immigrants. So why are taxpayers' money still going to having those people? Why we still have to reveal various types of other countries different? Like, we ain't got nothing to do with that. Right? That's form of reparations. But in some dealing with Black American reparations, people got problems overall. It's the nerve. It is the nerve of that problem, right? So let me go ahead and get you started a little bit quicker on this a little bit. You know what? Let me go and get to the one. Give me a second. Let me go to the one. Let me get to the one here. Give me a second here. Oh, what? I gotta show this. Because that's part of the criminality thing that people like the Charlie Kirks, male and female. Oh my goodness, Black criminality. You said that showed you, right? They don't want to talk about that. The other type of criminality of gangs by all these other groups. They don't talk about stuff like that, right? And you saw one of the groups I was talking about, the Italian mafia, the ones applies to. What about this? The gigantic recognized Al Capones, right? See, oh, Charlie Kirk, he won't talk about stuff like that. You won't talk about, oh, what about those kind of gayness? Huh? That predates who they try to act like that black gangsters about. Oh, people like, come on, that predates. Those are real type mafia type of gangster real type people. These people owning blocks, owning major businesses, own Howard political figures, and Harvard remnants of that. No telling. Anyway, I'm going to all that. But let's just, I'm going to show something here. Hold on, something I wanted to show on that part. And something I wanted to show. Famous for Al Capone famous for being Prohibition era mob boss. That's gangsters who led the Chicago Alpha from 1925, 1931. That's before a certain couple of black gang people love talking about it. Again, what 899% of black males wasn't part of no gayness, right? See how that goes, right? Who led the Chicago Alpha from 1925, 1931, building a criminal empire based on bootlegging, prostitution, gambling through violent means. Most notably, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. He has eventually been brought down by conviction of tax evasion and became an iconic, widely recognized figure of gangster culture in American history, popular media. But at the same time, you got people that want to talk about, oh my God, black on black crime, black on black crime. We're going to do about these black gangs, right? And unfortunately, millions within American blacks suffer from black pain trauma. Unfortunately. And there should be free mental health for black Americans. That's part of reparations as well, right? So again, you see the game it just goes on. Black on black crime, black on black crime, black on black crime, black on black crime, black on black crime. Oh my God, black gayness, because again, black gayness. You see little disgusting tactics. But they don't talk about, again, Anglo criminality, certain types of Asian criminality, certain type of Hispanic criminality, the ones it applies to. And how many gigantic googles of various cultures and backgrounds that commit criminality on a daily basis. But again, no, they don't talk about that. It's only black on black crime, black on black crime. And it's like, you know what? I mean, emotions aside, I can understand. Actually, no, I'm not understanding nothing. The mentality is like, okay, I got it. Black Americans just popped up in America a generation ago. And they got to be sitting there, and picked on for whatever reason. Got it. All right. Ain't did nothing to society, ain't contributed. No, they didn't flee over here. One grabbing a resource, one line talking about how they came over here with $2 in their pocket, right? So you come up with $2 in the pocket, you don't know nobody at all, right? You hop on the ship. How'd you pay for your ride on the ship, huh? Was that free? Of course it wasn't. But they came over here with $1.50, $2 in their pocket, and all of a sudden, oh my God, they made something of themselves. Get out of here. Right? But what I'm getting at, Black Americans weren't fleeing and getting on those ships and trying to come over to America and doing their thing and then lying about how many $1.50 in their pocket and start building stuff all over the freaking place, right? Going, oh my Ellis Island, they sitting there crying and kissing on the ship and kissing the ground when they get off the ferries or whatever, the boats and stuff like that. Right? Nope. That's not Black America's history. Black America's already over before the Statue of Liberty that came to existence in this country. Black Americans in this country are already before most 90 some plus percent of immigration people even step foot in this country of America. Black Americans are already building this country up. So Charlie Kirk, which is nothing but an inkling of a piece of half an inkling of a past inkling of inkling, right before he was born, right? Black Americans are already building this country up. And it's very interesting. I'm going to start right here on this particular topic. You really can't find too much about Charlie Kirk's parents' background. And where did they have their immigrationists from? Where is their lineage from? You type in Charlie Kirk's lineage, Charlie Kirk's parents. You look at his background and you see how difficult it is where you can't really find not too much where his parents are from like that. And I often been trying to go through 1,000 different things. It ain't that serious or complex on that. What's interesting, as much of a public figure as Charlie Kirk is, right? The spin of hatred toward Black Americans, the divisiveness that he was supposed to be talking about all these other groups, you would think it would be easy to say, okay, oh, his dad is a white Hispanicism or German background or Scottish background. His mom is from Hispanic background or from Scottish or Welsh background or some kind of Irish background or some kind of Hispanic background, right? Can't really find too much about that. Interesting, isn't it? That's done on purpose. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. What should I do? What's up here? So give me one moment here. All right, here. So let me play this.
If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. I'm sorry. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
You see the nerve? Yes, but there's a memorial service for him today at a big old John Stadium in Arizona, in a 106 in Arizona. You got however major political figures sitting there going crazy over this. I forget whether it was a professional football team or somebody's professional sports team or something, where they told they had something was going on where they had some kind of silence, that few seconds of silence and would show respect for this viralityness of demonicness of Charlie Kirk's anti-American Black hatred, insultingness of that. Right? And you got people act like he's some kind of Satanist. Again, as if he's some kind of super humanity type person. As if he had been he's a king or queen that transition. As he's some kind of major super celebrity that helped out so many people. Nope. As if he's some kind of a Satanist that have been doing so much for humanity and in his transition. Nope. So his claim to fame is vitriol and divisiveness, anti-American Blackism, and he gets treated almost like he's some kind of godness. That is some definitely racial racism, terrorism type sick mentality on that. So this right here, if there's a black pilot, I'm gonna question that. But how many numbers of Anglo pilots have they been caught drinking, drunk, collisions? How many? How many numbers of women within Angloism, right, been caught doing some things? How many? But he don't want to talk about that, right? How many? And he was allowed to talk that nonsense.
Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist.
Do you see how that goes? You see this hatred that came out of his mouth. But at the same time, his wife, she gets, again, free VIP, no accountability passes, knowing her husband was a racial racism terrorist speaking demonic devilness that spewed hatred, anti-American Black hatred, and whatever the other divisive agendas he would speak about, which he was funded to do. So he named some of these Black women, I guess, showed hatred, but at the same time, if these were Anglo women in those same positions, where's that DEI be conversation back? DEI. Nope. He didn't. He never talk about what about numbers of Anglo males who got in superposition. There was another topic of another guy who got into, I think it was a CDC or what was it? Give me a second if I can find this. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I'm not gonna show it. There was another topic. Oh man, I think I closed it out. I think I closed out. It was inserted a big time entity where this guy was put into this Anglo guy was put into a big major position. I want to say the CDC or some type of effect, but they didn't have any kind of medical background or anything like that. But they was put into a big major position. What about nepotism? That's a form of nepotism. That's a form of cronyism. What about that? You didn't talk about Anglo males getting in positions of cronyism and nepotism, right? He didn't talk about numbers of males within Ptolemy's culture who how numbers ain't qualified to be in various positions, but they're allowed to be in those positions. Huh? He didn't talk about numbers of certain women within certain parts of Ptolemy's culture who are got in positions because of DEI, who are the main ones or recipients of DEI, and the majority of overall DEI places that were DEI training was non-blacks. So who is the person who was benefit of DEI? You see the game on that. The majority of people who so DEI was basically affirmative action 2.1, and the main people who was benefit of affirmative action for generations is numbers of males and females within the Ptolemy's culture are the number one people who had benefit of affirmative action. Well, that's some poor Anglo people go to hell. If you got 1,000 people, that don't mean 1,000 numbers of Anglo people going to benefit off. There has to be ones that are not going to sit there and get the benefits. Don't matter, because there's still a social benefit. There's still a political benefit to that, regardless. You see how the disgusting game. So you didn't hear. Please go ahead and show where you heard some type of Black American male speak like this. Well, if I get on a plane and I see a Anglo woman or Anglo male, I'm going to have to question. Y'all want to be on this plane? Or that Anglo woman, the Jason Anglo woman, or etc. Some other person. Well, that male, he looks like he may be the part of the turn lifestyle category. Oh, no, if I want to trust him being a pilot, or he's in a political position. Oh, I'm not quite sure I can trust him being in political positions. Nope. So you see, but this is the kind of stuff that he's allowed to sit there and say anti-American Black hatred, and he sit there was out to say things like this. Well, I'm not talking about venting anger. No, he got paid to sit there and rile up Black Americans. He got paid to rile up some other issues and stuff like that.
But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously.
He wasn't exactly smart himself like that. He was just speaking. He was just sitting there, again, a regurgitated pond food. No different than people who came before him, like the Bill O'Reillys, the Rush Limbachs. Right? He was no different. No different at all. This a different fangling version of that. Right? The Tucker Carlsons. And think about it. You didn't have no equivalent of a Tucker Carlson. You didn't have no Black American equivalent to a Tucker Carlson or Rush Limbaugh. There surely was not no equivalent of a Black American Rush Limbaugh. Nope. There was no Black American equivalent to a Charlie Kirk. There was no Black American male that was for Bill O'Reilly. Nope, on the main media, because Black Americans don't control no main media, which is gives another insult part of it. But Black Americans are some of the ones that watch the most type of media overall, besides certain ones in Angloism, right? The insulting is of that, right? That is a type of monopolized situation on that. So you see already this hatred that Charlie Kirk demonicism was said anti-American Blacks, and he sits there is being treated as a saint. Having a memorial service for him in one of those cities in Arizona. Having flags flown half-mast as if he's some kind of war hero, as if he was some kind of personnel that was a major figure in politics, also major celebrity who did so much for so many people, right? Some kind of iconist of humanity, some kind of queen or king, some kind of gigantic ambassador on this planet that was doing so much. Nope. So he gets accolades for being a viralness of a racial hatred bigot that Charlie Kirk was spearing out, and what other agendas that he was spearing out, and he gets treated as he's some kind of sit there and Satanist. That is some super great white hope type of insultingness. Besides the very few amount of ones that don't act like that.
You were trying to get the officer who murdered George Floyd pardoned, and I just want to know what your reasoning was about that.
Well, George Floyd didn't die because of the police officer. He died largely because of a drug overdose. Died because of the police officer. He died.
About that.
Well, George Floyd didn't die because of the police officer. He died largely because of a drug overdose.
The vile hatred that came out of his mouth on that. The insultings of that. What the insultingness of what Charlie Kirk was doing was insulting on that. What I just sit there and showed you on that, right? So let me sit there and show my screen on that. The insulting of what he said on that, what I said there just showed you, Charlie Kirk, and he's being sanctionized on this. Hold on for a second. Otherwise, give me 1 second. See what I want to play here. All right, don't want to see here. What else? Right, I thought I had something. Well, give me a second here. I thought I had some already. Give me a second here. Let's take it home. Oh, why did? Okay. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Let me go back. All right. So let me go back. Why he did something. Okay. Here.
State your name.
Tyler James Robinson.
Tyler Robinson, accused of gunning down Charlie Kirk, appearing in a Utah courtroom via video link for the first time since his arrest, nodding his head slightly as prosecutors said they would seek the death penalty. The 22-year-old charged with a slew of offenses, including aggravated murder, witness tampering, and commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child.
Hold on, let me go back. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this stupid criminality. And he's in Utah. What is like the rareness of Black Americans up there? I think there's a few extra Black adjacent ones up there from various parts of Africa, the Caribbean up there, right? But not Black Americans like that. In Utah. And this guy, Tyler James Robinson, he's like only 22, 23 years old himself. Young Anglo guy. And look at this white on white crime, criminality, violence that he's been basically shown he's about. Aggravated murder. Anyway, you see the point here. Look at this. Aggravated murder. Felon discharge of firearm, causing serious body injury. Obstruction of justice. Witness tampering. Commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child. But at the same time, oh my goodness, black on black crime. Right, and it is an extreme insultingness, and basically a salivating of slapping the face of millions of American Blacks, with very few exceptions, who are continuing to allow people to do major insultingness. But next year, the midterm elections, you're gonna have people that's gonna expect Black Americans to still vote. Across the board, Democrats. If you don't do that, or if you vote for Republicans, oh my goodness, you hate your kind. You see the game? The majority of people in the 2024 election who voted for Kamala was Black American women. No other women came close to voting for Kamala than Black American women. Now, even though unfortunately there are some major sisterhood of chaos members within American Black womanism that have a vile hatred as well, a pseudo hatred of Black American males, and they think Black American males are supposed to settle for that type of heinous behavior because some of them do tolerate it, and that's why they allowed to keep doing what they're doing, right? By certain numbers of Black American men who would tolerate this nonsense. And then when certain ones, Black American males, are going travel and enjoying themselves in different other countries, oh my goodness, we're going to call them passport brothers. As if Black American males weren't traveling before the formal passport brother movement has been going. Huh? As if you don't have numbers of Black American women, as if you don't have certain Anglo women, be it in the United States or be it certain parts of in Europe that go to certain parts of Africa, and ones that go to Jamaica, sitting there sleeping with numbers of males. The ones applies to, and whatever other countries. But you got people that don't want to talk about that. But the many Black Americans, males, are going somewhere other places to travel. This is the 21st century. Black men can travel where they want to travel. They want to travel. Well, depending on certain situations, but we talk overall, travel, where the place they like to travel to, unless there's some kind of restrictions going on in those places or some essence going on, Black men can go travel. I'm talking about financial, when they can be able to do that, or if they want, because there are ones who can do it financially, but maybe they don't want to. But we're talking ones that have some financial ways to be able to do that. They're doing it. There are those Black American males that are not just sitting there going to other countries doing pay for play, people. Right? And if they were, and they hurt nobody, so that, what? Right? You don't question when Black American women doing that, different places. You don't question what certain Anglo women sitting there going to places. What about certain numbers of women who sit there and do they little sell their little, shall we say, resources to men in various parts of America? You don't sit there and tell them, hey, you can't be doing that, right? Boy, the hypocrisy is demonic. And they know overall it's just not enough males in general to call out this hypocrisy. But so the point is, this guy, this white on white crime, criminality, assailant type person who did this to Charlie Kirk, again, extreme white on white criminality, and had noticed how most main media, let me say this again, notice how most main media is not talking about we got to do something about white on white criminality. Let me repeat this again. Notice how most main media is not talking about how we've got to do something about this white on white criminality. I want to say it's brilliant, but it's not. It's infantile level. It's insulting us to millions within American Blackism that don't even know this game that's going on. Because if Kamala Harris got in office, you think things have been different on that? I'm not showing that video here when she talks about, I'm not going to do anything for Black people only. But she's one of the first personnel that also officiated same-sex marriage. Ain't that doing something particularly? Personnel? She was the VP under Biden, last administration. And they came up with an anti-Asian hate crime bill, right? Through Harvard legislature part, right? And that ain't that very Pacific? Even though Asia is a continent, and Asian is not just representation of a certain look of her people, right? Because it's Afro-Asiatic people, which of course they don't show too many of them. Just like there's Afro-Hispanic people, but of course they don't show too many of them. But the point I'm getting at, there was an anti-Asian hate crime law bill passed, right? Last administration. But still, the number one personnel within the last 4 years who had the most hate crime put upon them is Black Americans. But Black Americans were still, but didn't get no hate crime law. And how many knows of certain type of Asians, once applies to, have shown blatant anti-American Black hatred? How many numbers of Black Americans who know what I'm talking about? There have been certain numbers of Asians who have been showing blatant anti-American Black for generations. Let me phrase that. especially in the 80s and 90s in certain other places in America, there have been numerous type of Asians that have shown anti-American black hatred. 21st century, numerous numbers of Asians within certain personnel have shown blatant anti-American black hatred. Certain numbers of videos that I've done already too that show a certain type of Hispanics who sit there and show certain type of anti-American black hatred. Right? But no hate crime law for American blacks. You see the insulting of this, right? And again, the number one people commit the most crimes are personnel within various parts of economic culture. The gigantic personnel who commit the gigantic amount of white-collar crimes is numbers of personnel within various parts of economic culture. White-collar crimes is not victimless crime. The majority of personnel who are convicted of drug offenses are personnel within the economic culture. But they want to sit there and act like it's Black Americans that are getting caught up in drug offenses. You see how this game goes, right?
Aggravated murder, witness tampering, and commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child. The conservative influencer killed by a single gunshot while speaking. Influencer killed by a single influencer killed by a single gunshot child. The conservative influencer killed by a single gunshot while speaking at Utah Valley University. Utah Valley University.
Hold on, let me go back. Hold on.
The hearing, Utah County next week. Utah Valley University.
Hold on, dang it. So again, one of the last questions he was at, look at that nice little crowd. And they come to hear him speak vileness, of divisiveness. And so again, one of the last questions about mass shouting, I think was something else. And he deflects. And then some of the last words, the irony of that, he talks about games. Because he's about to start talking about, either throw some kind of racial context in that something. And what did I show you earlier about the various types of gayness? And there's those documents that I was showing you earlier. Just a little piece of that. Because Charlie Kirk was not going to talk about the violentness of Anglo gayness or the other transnationalness organizations that are various parts of America. He don't talk about those gayness and other people. Because he better not try to sit there and go against them. Right? He know better. He knew better. He know his bread and butter is to go against anti-American, be against Black Americans. And he know millions of Black Americans just going to vent off anger. That's all. They ain't going to demand hate crime laws. They ain't going to sit there and get him, sit there and say, hey, no, hey, whatever personnel, you got to cancel them off that hatred. You got to know you can't have that. Nope. Because again, Bill O'Reilly, the hatred, he spit out his freaking mouth, anti-American Black. Again, he was taken off the air, not because of his spirit of anti-American Black hatred, but because some women accused him of doing whatever he was doing. Right? Rush Limbaugh, right? I think health situations, but he had been in the radio industry as a big time conservative, sharpness, anti-American Black hatred, wildness. Many big time people consider him friends, right? But again, no Black American people let people sit there just this insult the heck out of Black Americans by the millions. And Rich Limbaugh, he was a known racial racism, hatred of Black Americans, right? And minimizing white criminality, right? But he was allowed to do that. And Tucker Carlson, a known, again, racial racism, hatred, anti-American Black terror. Yes, American Blacks. And he was allowed to be on radio and TV for quite a while. You see that part? Nobody else had to go through this at that equivalent level, right? So him to be taken out, Charlie Kirk to be taken out by one. Last thing he's talking about is about game. And he was taken out. Because again, he was about to start talking about something about something about Black in there somewhere.
Shot while speaking at Utah Valley University last week. Prior to the hearing, Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray outlining the case against Robinson.
After shooting Mr. Kirk, Robinson hid the gun, discarded the clothing he wore when he fired the rifle, and told his roommate to delete incriminating text messages and not talk to police.
Gray adding Robinson disliked Kirk and texted his roommate saying, "I had enough of his hatred." And
that part right there, see, they make sure the kid to kind of watch the wording, because you don't see nothing around. You don't see nothing else around here, do you? It said, because he said that he had enough of Charlie Kirk's hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated. Well, but that was the guy, right? That was him. That was the guy, Robinson guy. 22, 23 years old. Oh my goodness, the hate. So was that Robinson guy? Was he a racist for sitting there calling Anglo personnel a racist? Right? Was Charlie Kirk gonna come back and tell him he's a racist? Right? To white on white criminology type personnel culture racist? Of course not. Right? And so I said, well, oh my goodness, well, look, he said he had the Robinson guy said, no, he had enough of this hatred that Charlie Kirk. Oh, it wasn't, but he wouldn't have anything to do with anti-American black hatred. See, that's the key word. It had nothing to do with that.
and had a note in his home saying, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." It comes as we learn the suspect's mother told authorities she recognized her son from the surveillance images, and then she went to her husband. Prosecutors say the parents convinced him to turn himself in and then drove him to the sheriff's station.
Now look, does he look like some wholesomeness? Because I think one more video, I'm gonna close it out on that. See, does he look he's wholesome? See again, right? Looks like that's a decent. If that's a house in places, looks like a little decent little neighborhood, right? I'm sure he didn't grow up hungry. Sure he didn't grow up, have to worry about too much stuff on this situation, right? But at the same time, again, what's going on inside his mentality? You see how they like to show a lot of times this situation, this picture. He's smiling this, right?
Themselves. Robinson's mother also describing a change in her son.
Over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans.
Whoa. See that part. A lot of people, they don't want to talk about that part too much, right? That he, hold on for a second. That he was going a little bit more hardcore politics, and he would hear people like Charlie Kirk saying maybe some things about term lifestyle categories, and he just couldn't take that stuff too much, right? Not because of anti-American black hatred. So let me show this again.
More pro-gay and trans, more to the left, more political.
Over
the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented.
What? Pro-gay, what? Hold on. Pro-gay?
Trans rights oriented. Pro-gay and trans rights oriented.
Pro-gay and trans rights, basically. He was for them. Anything about Black Americans, but oh my goodness, well, Charlie Kirk talking about something about gay and trans rights, but I guess he didn't talk, but he didn't want to talk about how many number of trans and certain person that was in gayness, the one applies to, and certain Anglo-ness, the one applies to, that have shown hatred to Black Americans, that have shown hatred to certain numbers of Black gays, certain type of Black trans. How many of those Anglos have showed hatred to them? Oh, they don't want to talk about that. So this guy, right, this white on white crime criminal assailant of Charlie Kirk, he was pissed off at Charlie Kirk for basically talking about gayness, trans rights, right? Not anything to do about anti-American Black hatred. Nope, who care about that? Those are the sour Negroes anyway, right?
Had started to lean more to the left and had
describing a change in mother, Robinson's mother also describing a change in her son.
over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented.
I'm gonna stop right there. I think that's a main part right there. Trans, gay, and trans rights oriented. But something dealing with Black American hatred, oh no, we don't care about that. Whatever. Yeah, whatever. We don't care about none of that. You see how that game goes, right? So the last thing I want to sit there and show is a very also important part. I'm just going to play this maybe a few minutes. I'm going to call it closing out on this part. Is Charlie Kirk's actually, hold on for dang it. Let me play this right quick, real fast. This other one.
Well, new here at 5, a Tyler funeral home has created a special memorial for Charlie Kirk, inviting the public to share their condolences and honor his memory. At Stewart Family Funeral Home, a memorial honoring Charlie Kirk is drawing visitors from all across the community. A guest book has been placed inside, open for anyone who wants to leave a message of sympathy, remembrance, or support. The book will remain available through September 26th, and then after that, it'll be sent to Charlie's widow, Erica, as a keepsake. Chris Stewart is the president of Stewart Family Funeral Home. He hopes this gesture, however small, brings comfort to Erica Kirk and helps the community process a shared sense of loss.
What? The hatred of Charlie Kirk. The vile anti-American Black hatred. That's what I showed you a couple of videos earlier, where he was sitting there questioning if he saw a Black pilot, talking Black American pilots, he would question that, right? Oh, George Floyd. Now he didn't sit there and pass on because of a racial racism, demonic animal, bad seed type person putting his nasty demonic knees on the back of George Floyd. No, he didn't pass because of that. For almost 10 minutes of that, and you had some little silly pond little people of color, non-Black, who set their little tails around and didn't do nothing but their little scary selves. So almost 10 minutes, Derek Chauvin put his nasty demonic knees, right? Cow shit knees on the back of George Floyd's neck for almost 10 minutes. But that's not why he sitting there and became unalived. We can't allow you to have maybe some drug in the system. And it's interesting when you got certain numbers of people within certain parts of Vietnamese culture, when they sit there having issues, stuff like that, and they do some wrong things, especially depending on what situation, well, they suffer from mental illness. And it's interesting if that was a Black man, a Black enforcement person, he put his knees on the back of the neck of an Anglo type guy for almost 10 minutes. And see if you're going to sit there and hear, you heard some kind of Black American sitting there talking about, well, that guy did sit there and became unalive because this Black American enforcement personnel had his knee on this Anglo male's neck for 10 minutes. That's not why he passed on, right? You see the nerve of these people. And unfortunately, these are the little demonic games that are played, deflection tactics, minimization tactics that are played by certain type of ones within certain parts of predominant culture, the one this applies to, right? They're to say whatever comes to their mouth because they have been trained generationally to think Black American people are just not worthy of being citizens, right? Because even though they sit there and see Black American citizens doing decently, the ones it applies to, they don't like seeing it. They'll make up something in their mentality like, well, I don't care if they sit there making a decent amount or whatever they're doing. They're not better than me, right? I'm just saying this is how certain ones process and demonically, certain ones within certain parts of its culture, they have hatred toward American Blacks. Look what they did to Black Wall Street and how many uncalculable numbers of Black towns destroyed them overall, right? Look what they did to Rosewood, right? Look what they did at that place in some also those beaches also in California, right? They sell prime real estate that was stolen from black folks. And unfortunately, you got some gullible ones right starting to sold right back generations later for basically really nothing, right? And then they still lost it. I mean, the brilliancy of certain ones within the Ptolemaic culture, right? They just say black Negroes, they so stupid overall. It's something about their black American people overall. They're just kind of, I don't know, they're just easily gullibleness, right? And so what's still keeping a certain amount of black Americans up a certain way is the few amount of black Americans that cannot be fooled, right? That a few sit there and do roast certain people who say nonsense to black Americans. Those are only a small amount of black Americans that are really holding up an overallness amount of black American demographics overall, right? On that. So I make this point before I show this last video of this nerve of of Charlie, racial racism, anti-American black Kirk, spearing hatred. The many videos out there are speaking hatred toward black Americans. As I said, I showed you earlier, spearing out his hatred. And you got people talking about this funeral home, talking about how, you know, they sit there and did a memorial for him at this funeral home. So people come by and send there, sign his book, and he'll send it to Erica, right? Erica, Committee Interiors, his wife, Kirk, right? Who has gigantically been allowed to have no kind of accountability for being married to that racial racism terrorist, right? I mean, they just keep slapping the faces of American blacks by the millions left and right.
I don't think we've had as many people come by and sign a book before as we have for Charlie Kirk.
You said nobody else has ever came by to the funeral home to sign one of those books at all. More than Charlie Kirk. I'm telling you, Charlie Kirk was a sectionality of a resurgence of a great white hopeness. But at the same time, he got a little ahead of himself. He thought he can do no wrong. But the minute he started talking a little bit extra about that guy, Robinson guy, he started talking some extra stuff also about gayness or homophobicness or whatever that's supposed to mean, and some trans rights. The guy that took his life, who was in a relation. Oh God, I think I stopped that a little too quick. I may go back and try to finish that right quick on that. But he was in a relationship with a fellow who was biological male, but he was transitioning to a woman. So he definitely took offense to Charlie Kirk talking about some gayness or some trans stuff, right? But of course, he want to talk about what about numbers of Anglo trans or Anglo gayness who's talk crazy about black trans or black trans, huh? What about that? He didn't care about that. He only heard, hey man, you're talking about basically what he's talking about is Anglo-ness, transness, right? Anglo-ness of a term like our category. That's what the white on white crime assailant was mad about. See, you see how this game goes, right?
And the reason we did it, we want her to realize that even in a small community, there's a lot of outpouring of love because he was taken so soon in his life, you know, with a wife and 2 young kids. It's just a tragic loss.
You see how this goes? I mean, it's something off about certain ones within certain parts of the Ptolemaic culture. He's talking as if Charlie Kirk was some kind of Satanist. Not talking about, yeah, we may make mistakes and stuff like that. This guy was a notorious, certified anti-American black hatred racial terrorist. And you got people sitting there putting flags at half mast for him. Sitting there at high-risk sporting events, right? Professional sporting events as well, the ones it applies to, sitting there giving a few seconds of silence for him. What? The insultingness of that. And what that did is basically salivatate on millions of black American faces on this situation. But before I play my last video, I don't know if I stopped that too soon. this other video. Hold on.
She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views.
So he was in a relationship. The guy that took the life of Charlie Kirk was in a relationship with a biological male who was transitioning to a female. And he got pissed off more about Charlie Kirk saying a few things about certain type of Anglo trans, certain type of Anglo gay. Because he didn't care nothing about no black gayness, no black trans. And unfortunately, even within those environment of various types of black trans and black transness, black gayness, and black lesbian, collectively, most will not say anything about the racial racism hatred that they get from various ones within Angloism in those areas, right? That is still a quiet taboo that's still not talked about. So the white on white crime, criminality, hatred type person, or should I say the white on white criminality type assailant that took the life of the hatred of the Charlie, the anti-American black hatred, vile Kirkness, right? The guy, he wasn't mad about Charlie Kirk's hatred toward black Americans and spilling out his hatred. Nope, he was mad about Charlie Kirk talking about some gayness, some gay issues he maybe didn't like, or some trans issues, right? That was all. The anti-American black hatred that he was spewing about black Americans, Charlie Kirk, the guy who took his life, he didn't worry about no stuff like that, right? So last thing again on this video, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna play it for a few minutes, and I'm calling it a day. On this is that Charlie Kirk's wife, who talks about how. Anyway, I'm just gonna play a few minutes because I want to keep this as a timepiece purpose, because this is something about when she's speaking, just kind of it was irksome. It's irksome because it's like bad acting on that. Because she would sit there and complicit to listening to, hold on. She was sitting there complicit to sit there and hearing Charlie Kirk sitting there spearing out hatred and anti-American black hatred. And she's been complicit to that. So she is guilty of that. Because if it was vice versa, and it was black American male, and he was going after spearing hatred, oh my goodness, he hates white people. No, that's because that's what ones do in predominant culture where he try to deflect. That's a little kiddish kindergarten version tactic, right? Oh, he hates white people. But he don't talk about none of the Anglo personnel that show hatred on a daily basis toward American blacks on a daily basis. Oh, they don't talk about that, right? The ones applies to, right? He won't talk about, I won't go into all that. So the thing about it is all that hatred that Charlie, anti-American black, was showing hatred toward black Americans, right? She didn't sit there and say, well, you need to cut that out. No, she's complicit to allow that to continue to keep happening. So she benefit off that. So that's a disturbingness that she is complicit in Charlie, anti-American black male hatred, Kirk, and she benefited off that. And she gets free VIP passes of no accountability. And that's the kind of topic that many people still are not talking about.
My name is Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk is my husband. I first want to thank the local, state, and federal law enforcement who worked tirelessly to capture my husband's assassin so that he can be brought to justice.
No, the mom and dad turned him in. Already half a white lie.
I want to thank the first responders who struggled heroically.
And you see how she's talking like that. It's a certain off way. What if she go to Haiti, the one's playing a game on that?
To save Charles's life. And the police who acted bravely to make sure that there were no other victims on that terrible afternoon.
The guy got away. So what is this complicit? By association, the Charlie anti-American black hatred Kirk, she's speaking half white lies.
I want to thank the officers who have protected our Turning Point USA family these past 2 days. And I want to thank the Turning Point USA board, the COO, Justin Strife, and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy, for all their work in these terrible days to be the stability for our family and for the wider Turning Point USA family as well. My heart is with every one of my husband's employees who lost a friend and a mentor. I want to thank the staffers of his amazing Charlie Kirk show, who helped him broadcast from this studio.
Man, I'm telling you, man, there are certain numbers of women in certain parts of Anglo culture, the ones it applies to, they are masters of chameleon tears. They are the masters of the superb passive-aggressive personality disorder. They'll sit there and show you something in front, left, or right, because many of them are bad actors or bad actresses. They will show in front of people what they want to show them. But Charlie Kirk was also a simp. He was nothing but a simp. She simped him on that. Charlie Kirk saw her, looked at the outside looks, and he went crazy. Oh my goodness. Oh man, I want to be with her. Because she was a Miss something beauty pageant contestant. So that's a certain mentality of that overall, right? And him, he wasn't the smartest person. He just somebody that did some debating, and he may say some things that sounded oh my God, that's wow. He understands himself. No, he didn't. Nothing different than some other people that came before him on the situation. So, but it's like ones that have a falsified self-confidence situation, but they can argue you down, right? That's what Charlie Kirk also was. He can argue. He was brilliant to argue people down, but still had some kind of internal self-confidence problems. Because this right here, she wouldn't even give him the time of day overall. It looks like there was something that she could not benefit off of, right? And so him, Charlie Kirk, and what is this other guy who founded Turning Point, which is interesting because Candace, Antimonus Owens, right, who is Black adjacent, but cosplays under Black Americanness, and she got let go from Turning Point, and she was like trying to turn against them, right? Because she started talking about some Jawshism type stuff, and they let her know, look here, Negro adjacent personnel, you don't ever talk about Jaws issues. You stay in your place, Negro. Right? But here's the thing about it. She's nothing but a coon sellout in the first place, too. But what's interesting about her as well is that, when Black folks start talking about racial racism, oh, boy, she be all over the place. No, ain't no racial racism and stuff like that, because she's a coon. She's a coon Black adjacent one, Candace Owens, right? And the thing about it, which is another hypocrisy situation, because she's married to an Anglo guy, but at the same time, you didn't hear no Sister of Chaos get mad at her, call her a sellout like that. Nope. But if a Black man marries an Anglo woman, he hates Black women. I mean, that's a whole different game of hypocrisy that many number of Black Americans are not calling these Sister of Chaos type members out in hypocrisy. How is it that you don't sit there and say nothing when numbers of Sister of Chaos members married Anglo males? You don't sit there and say, how about numbers of other women out there when they marry numbers of other Black American women that marry some other type of Anglo male. Where's all that old hatred saying, oh, they don't like you don't like white, you don't like your own people. Nope. But the minute Black American men, if they date or marry some Anglo, as if that's a gigantic amount, you hate your mama. The hypocrisy. So all that I'm doing is getting at is that Charlie Kirk also had simpleton, right? Because, I'm sorry, Candace Owens. So Candace Owens sits there, was talking about how when she was also younger, that she got a little remindment. And what did she do? She sit there and cried racism. Let me say that again. When she got reminded when she was younger, first thing she started doing was crying racism. And she got paid off, I think she got paid or whatever thing off of the racism situation that she experienced, right? But all these years later, she act like she don't sit there and see racism. I'm telling you, those are very deadly type people as well. Mentally deadly type people. They sit there when racism is applied to them, they can sit there and cry about it and complain about it. Oh, they want sympathy. But the minute Black Americans, I'm talking about the coons and sellouts are the tether class. But the minute Black Americans are saying, hey, not coons and sellouts, hey man, racial racism and terror is still going on. Oh my goodness, these tether Black adjacent ones, it's some coons and sellouts. Black Americans need to start talking about racism. You see the hypocrisy. So you talk about turning point. Anyway, I'm going on all that. So continue.
This chair. Every day he loved it.
No.
He loved what he did.
You mean what? Speaking anti-American Black hatred, divisive, bigot rhetoric that he was getting paid multi-millions of dollars and stuff like that for, but he's supposed to be part of a Christian conservative organization. The hypocrisy is real. And she benefit off that. And she has consistently, how many years gotten the benefit off of sitting there anti-American Black racial hatred that came from Charlie Kirk's mouth? And how many people, you best believe she knows some people within Angloism and how the political figures and how the business figures, the ones applies to, the ones who sit there and gave him funding and sit there and helped him out more. Oh, you better spew out his Black American, anti-American Black hatred. Oh, she knows some people, but she knows she's getting a benefit. And she definitely going to get paid even a lot more with his unalivement and stuff like that. Oh, she's going to get paid, right?
I want to thank the millions of people who have shown their love for Charlie here in Phoenix, across America, and worldwide. I want to thank my husband's dear friend, Vice President Vance, and his phenomenal wife, Usha, for their love and support. You guys honored my husband so well, bringing him home. You both are tremendous.
Yes.
I want to thank President Trump and his incredible family for the same. Mr. President, my husband loved you.
Now, if that was a Black man that did that, or a Black woman that did that, they would call her so many names. If that was a Black man, Charlie Kirk version, which there's never ever been and never will be, that will be funded like that, to be divisive against those Anglos, the ones applies to be divisive, talking about anti-transness or against some transness or against some gayness or whatever other agendas that Black man was getting paid and funding for, right? And he had his wife was sitting there benefiting off that. And so a Black man takes that Black man's life, like a Charlie Kirk and stuff like that. And that Black man who took the life of, say, a Black man, Charlie Kirk, that Black man was in a relationship with a biological man, and the Black man who was in a relationship with a he was a biological man, but this guy was transitioning over to a trans personnel. But that Black man took the life of a Black man type Charlie Kirk, but his wife so Erica say it was a Black man's wife, like her, not Anglo version, right? So she was a Black woman. And she was talking like this. Oh man, do you know how much they will roast her left and right? Oh my goodness, you're thinking Trump knows them? Oh my goodness, right? Hypocrisy.
And he knew that you loved him too. He did.
Yo.
Your friendship was amazing.
Dang, boy, she's fake. That's fakeness. Even someone that has the grief. And each person has a different way of grief. However, there have been, numbers of people that have used fake griefness. Oh, you best believe when there have been people that have family members that have fought and squabbled over finances, fought and squabbled about so many things when a family member or somebody else, or a husband or wife, or however person in a relationship, they transition. How many people have done fake tears? But they're going to benefit financially or some kind of way off that. Ew.
You supported him so well, as did he for you.
Look at you trying to talk all docile.
2 days ago, my husband, Charlie, went to see the face of his Savior and his God. Charlie always said that when he was gone, he wanted to be remembered for his courage and for his faith.
Ew.
And one of the final conversations that he had on this earth, my husband witnessed for his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Man, this is making my stomach turn. Because I see through this. Fakeness. This is fake. This is fake bad acting she's doing. Fake bad acting. It's like you're in a relationship, but you're sitting there, you're talking to your significant other, relationship, or you married, whatever it is, and some kind of, because you know there's many types of celebrities and third type political figures like this that sit there and show you such a facade in the front. But then behind the veil, oh man, they going at each other left and right. And how many numbers of women sitting there going off on their husband left and right? That's simpletons, the one applies to, right? And she uses him, the one applies to, because there are some males out there, man, they'll sit there and get in the faces of many men. They'll take another man's life left and right. They'll buck up to another man left and right, right? That old fake macho stuff. But at the same time, we'll sit there and tolerate disrespect left and right from their wives. Tolerate getting slapped and kicked and emotionally mentally abused by their wives and significant others. Oh, many males tolerate that in various parts of America every freaking day. And this right here with Erica, something like this, these are fake tears, right? She is, whoever sit there and showed her, this is where you come across, man, they are brilliant. But I'm just going to play about another minute, so I'm just going to stop this because my stomach is being nauseated because I can see through this fake tears on this situation.
Now and for all eternity, he will stand at his Savior's side, wearing the glorious crown of a martyr. Charlie loved life. He loved his life. He loved America. He loved nature, which helped him always bring him closer to God. He loved the Chicago Cubs. And my goodness, did he love the Oregon Ducks. Want me to say go Ducks, so I have to since they play on Saturday. So go Ducks.
Ew!
But most of all,
fakeness.
Charlie loved his children. And he loved me.
Watch this.
With all of his heart.
Watch this.
And I knew that. Every day I knew that. He made sure I knew that every day.
Watch this.
Every day he would ask me, how can I serve you better? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? Every day. Every day. Such a good man. He's
I'm done with that. I can't listen to it anymore. I can't. You heard her. Oh, what he was supposed to do for her. He I didn't hear nothing about, and you didn't hear anything about her saying what I did, what I told him every day, that she said she loves him every day, and what can she do for him every day. Did you hear anything about that? So again, that tells me that Charlie Kirk was a simpleton. And she knew how to sit there and play him. He reminded me of somebody, many numbers of males are like this, that they're good for certain situations, but in concerns relationships, many are gullible in relationships. Many sit there and fall for pretty faces left and right. And prettiness isn't the eye of the beholder, right? But it don't matter. The woman can be a big gut size type of woman and still think she's a 8 or 9 on a scale of 10. And she'll, in her little messed up mentality, she thinks she looks so good, but she will sit there and mess the heck out of a gullible type male. It happens every day. So be it she's a big gut size or she's a little skinny straw size of the woman, it don't matter. There are numbers of women like that. They sit there and use these men every day. Let alone, unfortunately, so I can close down the show. How many numbers of males, be it certain types of celebrityism, especially certain types of celebrityism, where that man, especially various types of black men that do financially well, and men end up being broke anyway, but the one I'm talking about do decently financially well at the beginning, where most of those women wouldn't even talk to them. They would never get a certain type of model at all. They would not get a certain type of celebrity woman at all if they weren't in certain type of sports themselves. And unfortunately, there are certain type of many known American blacks and certain type of professional organizations that make all that money, and they're good what they do on that part, but just as naive in relationships. Charlie Kirk was no different. Charlie, anti-American black, hatred, vileness, demonic rhetoric, Kirk was no different. He reminded me of someone that good what they do about riling up people because he was paid to do that. Hey, however you go on that, to rile up black Americans, rile up however other people and genders, but primarily the bread and butter was still going to be anti-American black. But he made sure not to talk about white on white crime, white on white crime, white on white crime. And unfortunately, because so many black Americans black pained for centuries, but border break illegal immigrants are treated better, especially pre-Trumpness, second Trumpness. How many numbers of millions and billions have been going to border break illegal immigrants for generations? How many numbers of women, border break illegal immigrants, been getting free pregnancy care? Free pregnancy care. How many numbers of immigrationist type persons, once applies to, have been getting free resources? How many of the people have been sitting there utilizing kids, popping up kids left and right like they're canned apples under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution? They're not citizens. I'm talking about the people, these women that had these, the once applies to, that came from different places. The once applies to, that they knew because they've been told, just have some kids. So if you can't, no, let's have some health situation. And they pop those kids, say they're not even a citizen whatsoever, but those kids are automatically, kids are automatic citizens off the backbones of black pain, black Americans off the 14th Amendment. Most people benefit off of black Americans in some kind of way. In various parts of society, benefit off of anti-American black hatred for generations. But black Americans overall told, get over the past. You don't need no reparations. But the same type of people don't say anything about what did they have anything to do with removal of certain types of Native Americans, whatever that's supposed to mean, because they're up to black natives that were reclassified under black, the ones that were reclassified as black in general. Black Americans overall is a unique lineage on that part. See, people don't have a problem with someone saying it's Anglo. Well, that's fine. Caucasian, that's fine. Right? White, that's fine. No one says you confused, but somebody said black American, right? Or American black. Oh my goodness, Y'all confused, right? So you see the game of that, right? And it works brilliantly upon the minds of millions of American blacks who don't know the game. So in closing, the thing about it is, they know this system. The system knows that millions of American blacks modern day will not demand from political figures and say enough. They've had about enough of that are being used politically with no true tangible receiving type things, which should have been automatically a long time ago an anti-American black hatred bill, like they did an anti-Asian hate crime bill, previous administration, just like that. You know, when you say Asia, that is Asian, that is very genericality, because there are Afro-Asians and Iranians, Iraqi, Pakistanians, certain parts of Russia is considered Asian. So you see the game of that, right? So when people walk, so some type of Iranian people walking around America, Iraqi people walking around America, they don't call them. You don't hear about saying, "Oh, that's an Asian." So you see the game. But regardless, there's the anti-Asian hate crime law that was passed, previous administration. Even though the number one people in America who has had anti-American black hatred against, the number one people who have been the victims of hate crimes for generations in America is black Americans. But black Americans don't get no anti-hate crime law. Do you see the insultingness of that? Nobody is treated crazily than American blacks. Now, don't get me wrong, American blacks are the most uniqueness, historical, achievable people ever in America to go through the things that American blacks have went through. Nobody compares to that. And get no reparations? Wow. But modern dayness within certain parts of American blackism is failing. And the system knows that. Because again, 2026, they know that however numbers of black Americans are going to sit there and vote feelings wise. They're not going to require who they're voting for to get reparations. They're not going to require a form of reparations. They're not going to require something tangible. 2028 election, presidential election, they know overall American blacks collectively are just going to vote in general Democrats across the board. They know that already. Because they say a certain number of Republicans don't care about American blacks anyway. They say, well, whatever then, we vote Democrats instead of be like, well, okay, what's wrong with American blacks again making their own voting block? That's almost like old school news. But there are certain numbers of American blacks that are just stuck. And this is why I say again in closing, unfortunately, because there's so much black pain and internal problems that this system has created, and there's not enough money American blacks to sit there and call this stuff out and say enough. There has to be tangibility of reparations. No reparations and no justice. It's that simple. It's that simple. And it's not about, well, if we get reparations, what about some of those blacks who are not going? Who cares? No one questions however numbers of alcoholic type versions of Native Americans that get alcoholicness. The one applies to. No one questions them where their money going to. Right? You said this game goes. So no reparations for American blacks. If it does not happen, in I will say another, you know what am I saying? I'm gonna close with saying this. Because I've said this various times in my podcasting. And I'll stand by this. Today is September 21st, 2025. It doesn't matter what happened, wherever it is, or what kind of voting, wherever it is. American blacks only have half a generation to one generation left before the overall complete destruction of the American black culture. It's like a vortex. American blacks are in a vortex, and too many internal problems that's been created by supremacist system, and then helping all these different people slide under the generic black box, right? And they peek in, peek out, ones that are black adjacent ones who know they are, right? American blacks have helped so many other cultures out and stuff like that. They were put in black neighborhoods and stuff like no one applies to. And American blacks are the most openest people, and they are the most used people. And because of so many American blacks have been fooled And he got border break illegal immigrants sitting there laughing at American blacks on a daily basis. Well, Trump is be quiet. Because what happens in 2028? Well, Trump can't be reelected 3 times. So whatever's going on right now, the Trumpism, and however the next personnel will revert back, however stuff with Trumpism or for somebody else, it don't matter. Eventually, be something, various things be rolled back. And regardless, if there is no reparations, it don't even matter regardless. And again, for those things, I say American blacks by the millions. American blacks overall pretty much finished collectively. And so American blacks are not going to collectively go over half a generation to 1 generation. That's all American blacks have. Half a generation to 1 generation left before the overall complete destruction of the American black culture overall. Right? And so any survivors are going to be within a cultural POWs of Black Americans. It's like an underground, like on different wars. And that's what more American blacks are going to be, cultural POWs. Because American blacks will not collectively survive over a generation. Be it physical, finishing up American blacks collectively, which again, most likely that's not going to happen collectively, but other type of agendas. And the best thing that most American blacks do is sit there and try to get reparations. I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show.